Welcome to Brainstorm MTG. I'm ELD, and this is Fast Effect, Double Speed Magic the Gathering from ELD's Time Vault Games in Bellingham, Mass. And here we have Brent on Grixis versus Robert on a Painter build. That's right, these Red Elemental Blasts and Pyroblasts are main deck thanks to the synergy with Painter Servant. And this Thoughtseize taking out the Painter Servant. Once he got down, those Pyroblasts and Red Blasts could be pretty much anything from a Stone Rain to a counter spell, countering anything on the stack or destroying any permanents on the battlefield as long as they don't have Hexproof or Shroud. We'll see if Robert can pull together his combo versus this very resilient control deck featuring some of the best cards in Magic. Lotus Petal for Painter, and now a Smuggler Copter. Gonna give a little bit of a looting effect. Thoughtseize again from Brent. And gonna Enlighten Tutor in response. Grabbing a Goblin Welder. Welder, a resilient, difficult to deal with card. That does make more sense. I was thinking he was going to get Painter Servant, and Enlightened Tutor cannot grab Goblin Welder. So I'm glad they caught that. So Painter Servant makes the most sense. It'll crew the Smuggler's Copter and be half of the combo. Yeah, Goblin Welder, very difficult to deal with, hard to counter. Once it's on board, in Legacy it is more fragile in terms of the amount of removal spells that will take it out, pretty much anything. But in older formats like Vintage, you really have a tough time countering him and generally don't have the removal for him once he sticks. He was a metagame defining card for quite some time in Vintage. The power level on him is incredibly high for 1 mana, making your spells kind of uncounterable. Even if you force a Will A card, if you have a Goblin Welder out, you can just bring it right back. Now Smuggler Copter getting to work on Brent's life total and digging, and Snaring Bridge the first to go, leaving Robert with plenty of mana. If he does draw a Grindstone at any point, this will do it. Painter Servant changing all cards in all zones to also be whatever color he names. So right now everything is likely painted blue, giving Robert the ability to use Pyroblasts and Red Blasts if he draws them. Sometimes you don't want to name blue if you don't have those cards in hand, just because it also unlocks some hidden potential for your opponent. They can start pitching other cards. Oh, and Liliana's Triumph taking down that Painter Servant. Pitching other cards to Force of Will, Force of Negation, Misdirection, anything like that. Goblin Welder coming down. He crews, and the looting happens again here. And Brent's life total, actually a little bit of a concern. He's down to just 11. City of Traders, Robert painfully puts that into the sideboard. I didn't follow why that Smuggler's Copter untapped. Colgan's Command now, taking out Robert's Great Furnace and his Goblin Welder. Ooh. That is a devastating card here, leaving him with very little options. Enlightened Tutor would have been very close to pulling this whole thing back together. And now we see fetching in response to the Enlightened Tutor. And Painter's Servant going to go on top of the library. Drawing that Painter's Servant with Reb backup. Lightning Bolt. Gonna probably wait until the Painter's Servant resolves. Now he's crewing. And swinging. Ditching, I believe, another. Alright, and the Lightning Bolt takes down really Robert's main hope here. Now he kind of has to draw Grindstone. He was potentially going to win on the back of that Copter. Now a Reb taking down Dreadhorde Arcanist. Will that stand, or does Brent have a way to counter back? Painter, a very dangerous deck still. Grindstone would just wrap it up. Force of Will now going Hellbent. And now Dreadhorde Arcanist is going to be able to flash back that Lightning Bolt and put Robert way behind, unless he happens to have drawn a Pyroblast, which is almost certainly not the case. He would have just destroyed that Dreadhorde Arcanist on his turn. Was that the card in his hand? Sending. Trigger, Lightning Bolt, Painter Servant down. And Gurmag Angler. And Brent down to just 7 life now, firmly in the driver's seat. Just 3 swings away from death. And he's going to be outdrawing his opponent 2-1 over the course of the next 3 turns. And Robert sees that that is not going to work out for him. He knows he's got just a ton of cantrips and difficult things to deal with that Dreadhorde Arcanist. And is not going to get his combo together. Sideboarding on this white-red Painter deck. You are the combo deck. You have a main focus. Karn, the Great Creator, most likely in this list, can do a lot of work in some matchups. Tons of splash damage from that guy. Not nearly as good as he is in Vintage, of course, where a significant portion of almost all mana bases are Moxes, Black Lotus, Soul Ring, etc. But in Legacy now we're seeing an increasing amount of decks that do run artifacts that do not like them getting shut off by Karn, the Great Creator. Of course, Storm really gets hurt hard there if it can resolve. It is a 4-mana spell, so it's a lot to ask. But if it does resolve, it's going to shut off Lion's Eye Diamond and Lotus Petal. And then the new Arkham's Astrolabe control style decks, that really can be more of a hindrance than they count on when you start cutting off of their mana. They're fetching a bunch of basics and hoping to be able to get the colors they need when they need them off of the Astrolabes. That is particularly difficult when one of your best cards is incidentally shut off. But they do still get to draw the card off of it. So there's that. Let's see here, going into game 2, I see a Pyroblast, Lotus Petal, declining to play the Lotus Petal. Not really worried about Daze, as Brent is on a more of a control style shell than a Delver shell. Great Furnace. Looks like it's possibly time for a Scarecrow with Pyroblast backup. Many players would have definitely considered blowing up that island with the Pyroblast. It's the type of deck where you really need to get a lot of reps in for those type of decisions to figure out your play style and the direction you want to go in. So often that can win the game, but perhaps just as often it just barely inconveniences your opponent and they're able to just continue making their land drops. Pyroblast, a very high value card, and he decides he's going to spend it on that Ponder, swinging for 1 with the Painter Servant. A Relic of Progenitus now, and he is going to go ahead and crack that to draw a card preemptively, fetching, and now Goblin Welder. Yeah, Kolgan's Command is just a hellacious card that could potentially clear both of these. Welder really does just kind of suffer from a format full of removal. He does so much better when you don't have all of these cheap, easy removal spells floating around. Now we have something significant here from Robert, a 3-mana spell, Imperial Recruiter. I believe we're going to see a Goblin Engineer. And there we go, Modern Horizons, Goblin Engineer. That gets the Grindstone. Brent's got a turn to deal with this. Actually, the Goblin Welder's not sick, so he can weld in that Grindstone whatever he wants. We may be headed off to game number 3 pretty soon. Lightning Bolt targeting the Goblin Welder. Forcing the activation. He's likely going to target the Great Furnace and the Grindstone. And now Goblin Welder will die. Dreadhorde Arcanist can swing, flash back that Lightning Bolt, and take down the Painter Servant, but it will get returned by this Goblin Engineer. We'll see if Robert is aware of this potential trick. Does Brent have more removal? Kolgan's Command would be absolutely graphic. Oh, don't you do it, Brent. There's children watching. Oh, and a Dreadhorde Arcanist. That's not too bad. So Robert can win right now, I believe, if he grinds and then responds with exchanging. And that'll do it. So Robert is aware of it. That is a line that is one of the first things that I show people when explaining the Painter deck. Very easy to miss if you're not familiar with it. When you're loaning out a deck like this, you definitely have to explain that line. Very often comes up the ability to weld out your Grindstone for a Painter with the activation on the stack. So that weld will resolve. You'll get your Painter Servant in play. Then you go ahead and let your activation resolve when things are all red or blue or whatever color you choose to name there at the end. And now 1 game apiece here. Game number 3. Brent going to be on the play. Kolaghan's Command, a very dangerous card in this matchup if Brent can have the time to actually develop the mana base to use that card. Man, is it an absolute blowout of a card, killing potentially 2 very high value permanents. It is not often going to be without good choices. Probably the only criticism of Kolaghan's Command is that against some decks it's shock, discard, not really worth the 3 mana. But man, in this matchup, about as good as it gets. Perhaps the only thing close to this good would maybe be like versus Goblins, where you can hit an Aether Vial and a high value Goblin, something like a War Chief or a Pile Driver. But breaking up the combo and stopping them from being able to recur it is pretty hellacious. I believe we saw an Ensnaring Bridge there for Robert. I don't think I actually like that in this matchup at all. So Ensnaring Bridge versus many decks, if really the only way that they're going to win is by attacking with creatures, I am in favor of Ensnaring Bridge. But a deck like Brent's almost certainly going to have Jace the Mind Sculptor as a easy way to mill you out. Now it's possible because of the prevalence of Red Blasts that you kind of discount Jace's efficiency, his ability to actually get stuff done. Just because it's a 4 mana spell into a deck full of 1 mana counters for it that can also destroy him after the fact once he's on the battlefield. And that's not even using Painter Servant. That's just the natural synergy of Red Blast. So maybe there's an argument to be made there. It does seem to me like Ensnaring Bridge, not really great in this matchup. You pretty much have to go Hellbent. Even something like Dreadhorde Arcanist is going to be really gross if it continues to swing at just 1. And Robert now mulliganing. That is another thing that I'm happy to see go from the previous mulligan rules. It's just so good. I mean, pretty much when you drew 7 cards when you were supposed to be drawing 5 or 6, it was just such a terrible experience. And now that's gone. So that's just tremendous from a tournament organizer perspective to not have to explain to people just how bad the situation is that they accidentally drew another card. But also the scrying situation where you weren't allowed to look at the top of your library when you were mulliganing. Like when you're going to go shuffle it back, if you looked, that was like saying you were going to keep. So that was really messy. So overall, just couldn't be happier with the change. We've got a Ancient Tomb putting out a Painter Servant, the Scarecrow, looking to wrap things up as quick as possible, perhaps. I believe we've got a Grindstone in hand. Fatal Push shown from inside the deck, but that's not going to be helpful yet. Volcanic Island, is there a Lightning Bolt to clear this guy? No, just a Brainstorm. And this could be over really fast if Robert draws a Lotus Petal off the top or a Soul Land. It looks like the Grindstone's already in hand. Scalding Tarn. Oh, and that's an Ancient Tomb. Here we go. Oh, is it not an Ancient Tomb? Grindstone. 1 floating. He needs 3 to activate it. Thought he had an Ancient Tomb in his hand. I must have saw that incorrectly as he was flipping through the cards in his hand. I'm just kind of watching him go around. Yeah, it really looks like it is. It totally is. Alright, we got a Liliana's Triumph here. And that is going to wreck the situation if it resolves. Pyroblast on the Triumph. So Ancient Tomb could have been played, which potentially would have ended the game right there. Instead, Robert opting to keep some counter spells. We've got in Triumph pushed through with a Hydroblast. And now Robert is going to be in search of a Painter Servant in order to find a way to actually win here. Grindstone not going to do it on its own. Not even really worth the investment of 3 mana. Previously, when Sensei's Top was in the format, it was an excellent play to Grindstone target yourself to get rid of the 2 worst cards off the top of your deck, digging even further with your Sensei's Top. Of course, you don't want to do that when you've got a Painter Servant in play. But as you're digging for that Painter Servant, an excellent line. Now we've got Dreadhorde Arcanist. And it looks like an Abrade taking him down off of those Great Furnaces. Robert just in draw go here. Surgical, taking out Painter. Oh, and that is going to be backbreaking. I don't know that his list is really going to be able to get the job done here without the Painters. I'm not seeing Wormcoil engines or much. Karn the Great Creator really his only option now. He's going to have to get a Karn and get that final Painter Servant out of the sideboard. So he's not completely dead. Kolkin's Command and Snapcaster. 3 colors, none of them shared. And you're pretty much never going to grind somebody out without the Painter Servant. Snapcaster now, flashing back a Brainstorm. See an Engineered Explosives, and things are just getting tougher and tougher here for Robert. This Explosives, if he keeps it, is going to be able to blow up this Grindstone, setting him to just further and further back. Sending. Ponder. Sees a Grindstone first. Potentially actually helping him. I think he had, depending on how many turns have passed there may have been a bad card on top of the library from Brainstorm. We see Dreadhorde Arcanist. Adding into the clock here. Another Ancient Tomb, and Robert just really feeling the pain here. Had the potential turn 2 win, instead tried to play it safe. And it looks like that is going to be the story of the match here. 3 more turns of this. A Lightning Bolt, any type of burn will greatly accelerate that plan. And these Ancient Tombs are going to get shut off real soon. In theory, Karn could come in here and help out, but as the life total lowers, Pyroblast taking down this Snapcaster. So no flashback there. Robert was holding on to that Pyroblast, perhaps to protect his combo. And now Lightning Bolt down to just 7. Robert about to go down to 1 if this Lightning Bolt is the chosen card. We'll see. Brent will probably choose to add on additional layers of protection. Kolkin's Command, that'll do it. So he can shock with the command, bolt off the Dreadhorde Arcanist, and swing in for lethal. And Brent, with control, topping out this combo deck. That is all for this one, but don't worry, there is a lot more You can check out our older videos, and we're always putting out new videos from ELD's Time Vault Games in Bellingham, Massachusetts. If you want to help the channel, of course, you can like, subscribe, share, tap that notification bell so you can know the next time our new videos come out. Thanks for watching.